municipality has been provided with a USB, which includes resources to assist with the implementation of the Cataraqui Source Protection Plan. Most of this material is available on the cleanwatercataraqui.ca website, but for your ease of reference, training purposes, and to provide you with detailed educational resources, information has been provided in the USB format as well. This Source Protection Plan Implementation USB is designed to be a resource for municipal staff who are unfamiliar with source water protection or who would like a review of their implementation responsibilities. This USB can be used for existing municipal staff who are unable to attend today's session, or for new staff who will need to know about source protection initiatives and responsibilities in the Cataraqui Source Protection Area. The USB includes an introductory memo which explains the resources that are included on the USB, a presentation which provides an overview of source water protection in Ontario and the Cataraqui Source Protection Area. The presentation also discusses implementation responsibilities for municipalities in the Cataraqui Source Protection Area and identifies where additional resources can be found to assist with implementation. A training video of this presentation is also available on the USB. The Source Protection Plan Primer, which provides a brief summary of source water protection. Frequently asked questions for source protection are also included. Educational resources per drinking water threat are also included on this USB and include informational brochures, technical documents, and regulations, which have been collected and sorted by drinking water threat into an easy resources database to use. You may need to refer to more or less of the educational resources, depending on the drinking water threats that exist in your municipality. General educational resources have also been put together for drinking water source protection, which provide background information on the purpose of the Clean Water Act and source water protection projects in Ontario. A copy of the approved Cataraqui Source Protection Plan, the explanatory document, as well as the assessment report are also included for your ease of reference. Contact information for source protection staff is also included on the USB. These resources are all available through the Clean Water Cataraqui website. Any questions about source protection can be directed to these staff. Although the following ideas discussed in this section are not included in the Source Protection Plan as part of drinking water source protection in the Cataraqui Source Protection Area, it is important to understand the implications of the Cataraqui Source Protection Plan on these processes. A transport pathway is a human-made passage where water can flow on its way to a drinking water intake or well. In wellhead protection areas, examples of transport pathways include sewers, drainage ditches, utility trenches, or improperly constructed or maintained wells. In intake protection zones, examples of transport pathways include ditches, storm sewers, tile drainage, or sanitary sewers. The creation of a new transport pathway or the modification of an existing transport pathway has the potential to increase the vulnerability of an intake protection zone or wellhead protection area. Additional landowners or businesses may become subject to source protection policies as a result of an increased vulnerability score. Subsection 27.3 of Ontario Regulation 287/07 under the Clean Water Act requires municipalities to notify the Source Protection Authority and the Source Protection Committee if they receive a proposal that may create a new transport pathway or modify an existing transport pathway. Please note that this requirement only applies to municipalities with a drinking water system, i.e. an intake protection zone or a wellhead protection area. Also note that although this requirement does not apply to municipal activities, the Cataraqui Source Protection Authority encourages municipalities to submit this notification for municipal projects. The Transport Pathway Notification Submission Form, Guide, and Fact Sheet are available on the cleanwatercataraqui.ca website under the Resources page. When providing notification of a potential transport pathway, the municipality must include the following information: the name and contact information for the person responsible for the proposal, a description of the proposal, and a description of the approvals required for the proposed activity. If the Cataraqui Source Protection Authority finds that the proposed activity may cause changes in the vulnerability of an intake protection zone or wellhead protection area, then it may make recommendations in response to the application and/or propose an amendment to the Source Protection Plan that relates to the implementation of the proposal. Updates are being proposed to the municipal class environmental assessment to include source protection considerations. If a project is proposed in a vulnerable area and may pose a risk to drinking water, the project could be impacted by policies in the Source Protection Plan. The proposed project must take the Source Protection Plan policies into consideration during the project planning stage. Early on in the process of a municipal class environmental assessment, proponents must identify if a project could potentially occur within a vulnerable area and must document this consideration in the project file. If a project is proposed that may create new or alter existing vulnerable areas, i.e. for any proposed projects that will expand the use of existing or draw on a new source of municipal residential drinking water, source protection plans will need to be updated to incorporate these vulnerable areas. New or expanded vulnerable areas could cause additional landowners or businesses to become subject to policies in the Source Protection Plan. Therefore, it is recommended that the technical work required by the Clean Water Act to identify the vulnerable area and potential drinking water threats be undertaken concurrently with the municipal class environmental assessment. This will facilitate the assessment of potential impacts and allow a more comprehensive consultation process with potentially affected stakeholders. Coordinating this work will also expedite Source Protection Plan amendments to incorporate the new system or any changes to existing systems that may be required. It will also limit the likelihood of the municipal class environmental assessment proponents having to amend completed projects to reflect the technical work required by the Clean Water Act. To determine if the project could potentially occur within a vulnerable area, the municipality should refer to the interactive maps found on the Clean Water Cataraqui website and the Cataraqui Source Protection Plan to assess the location of the project in relation to vulnerable areas. For example, this air photo is provided through the interactive maps and will help to ensure adequate site location during project screening. To determine if the project could include significant threats to sources of drinking water, the municipality should review the Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change's Table of Drinking Water Threats shown on this slide, as well as the search tool developed by Upper Thames Conservation Authority, which is also shown here. Please note that the two images located at the top right of this slide are hyperlinks to the drinking water threat identification tools. Using these tools, you can search by vulnerable area to find out what activities are identified as a significant drinking water threat under the Clean Water Act. Once the threats associated with the proposed project have been identified, you can refer to the Cataraqui Source Protection Plan to find out which policies in the plan apply to the proposed project. Based on this information, the proposed project can be developed with the appropriate source protection considerations. Questions about source water protection in general, the Cataraqui Source Protection Plan, or your municipality's implementation responsibilities can be directed to source protection staff at the CRCA. Holly Evans is the lead risk management official at the CRCA, and Erin Murphy-Mills is a source protection assistant. Contact information for these source protection staff is provided on this slide.